Shut it! The roads were all clogged. Hey, you must be V, huh? Hey, you gonna get that? Ding, 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 right by your feet. Woo-wee! I'm gonna make something amazing out of this.
Did you just sniff that? Do you have any idea where that's been?
Up your butt?
Greetings everyone old and new, welcome to Haseo Reviews. This one's a long time coming, honestly, especially since I tasted back in, Halloween of last year, I think, for that marathon that didn't work out. Anyway, with the holidays approaching, what better time is there to talk about a man clad in red with a jolly attitude and a magic tree?
That's right, it's time to cover Devil May Cry 5, the long-awaited finale to the Sons of Sparta saga that began with the original Devil May Cry all the way back in 2001. What began as a rejected pitch for Resident Evil 4 took on its own life as the progenitor of what video game critic Yahtzee Croshaw coined the spectacle fighter genre. While the series would go through a sophomore slump with Devil May Cry 2, which I now understand was due to one of the most chaotic developments known to man, it would eventually find its footing with the spectacular Devil May Cry 3, followed up and partially refined with Devil May Cry 4. Capcom, at the time in the midst of their ill-fated Western push, decided to reboot the series rather than follow up on Devil May Cry 4's ending with the disastrous DMC Devil May Cry, and for half a decade afterward, it seemed like Dante and friends were relegated to crossover games and merchandise, the fate that too many former heavy hitters from Capcom have faced. Add in newcomer Platinum Games dominating the spectacle fighter scene with games like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising, and it seemed like Capcom had just decided that Dante wasn't needed anymore. However, E3 2018 treated us to the reveal of Devil May Cry 5, a proper continuation of the ongoing story, and for the first time ever, taking place after the events of the previously off-limits Devil May Cry 2. Not only that, but the events of the Devil May Cry anime series would be tied in as well, thanks to the inclusion of anime-exclusive character Morrison. With the final reveal of a brand new playable character, the mysterious poetry-obsessed V, Devil May Cry 5 was shaping up to be everything that longtime fans had been wanting for years. But does Devil May Cry 5 stand on par with the highest points of the franchise? Possibly even surpassing the fan-favorite Devil May Cry 3? Let's take a look. Devil May Cry 5 starts in media res with a crowd of spectators gathered around a giant tree that is sprouted in the middle of Redgrave City. Among them is Morrison, a recurring character from the Devil May Cry anime, who acts as Dante's liaison for getting new jobs. Inside the tree, returning DMC4 protag Nero, now missing an arm, and newcomer V set off to join Dante, who's already battling the demon at the center of the tree. Before we get into gameplay, I need to gush about how beautiful this game looks. Devil May Cry 5 runs on Capcom's RE engine, the same engine that powered Resident Evil 7 and the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, and honestly, I feel that this game does the best job of showing just what it's capable of. Facial animations are the most realistic I've ever seen in a video game, texture work is fantastic, the model quality is superb, and it manages to convey through the use of a darker color scheme that makes the color red pop out more than anything else how hopeless the situation appears to be, as well as emphasizing the recurring motif of blood. And it manages to do all of this while keeping a near constant 60 FPS at 1080p, with most of those settings turned to max on my admittedly limited laptop. Anyway, after the opening cutscene, we're thrust right into gameplay with a tutorial section that teaches the basics of Nero's gameplay against some simple enemies. It's more or less the same as Devil May Cry 4, but with the charge shot, which was initially something you had to buy for Nero's gun in DMC4, now a natural ability that he starts with, and since Nero's demon arm is obviously missing, he can't use grab moves, at least for now. After hacking and slashing his way through hordes of enemies, Nero reaches Urizen, the Demon King behind the sprouting of this tree. We have a boss fight against him, and Nero is overwhelmed completely. It's actually possible to win this fight and get a joke ending, but the developers intended for you to lose this one. Dante springs back into action to stall Urizen while Nero and V escape, but even Dante in his Devil Trigger form isn't enough to defeat the Demon King, and Dante is soundly trounced. With the world's strongest heroes unable to stop Urizen, the tree's roots begin to spread, overtaking the entire city and decimating its population.
Keep in mind, all of this is just the tutorial. Holy shit, Capcom really upped the ante here, didn't they?
1 month after the prologue, Nero and another new character, Nico, the daughter of Agnus from Devil May Cry 4 and the granddaughter of the gunsmith who made Dante's ebony and ivory guns, are heading back to Redgrave to combat the demonic plant infestation. Equipped with Nico's newest invention, the Devil Breaker Bionic Arm, Nero faces off against a horde of demons that have slaughtered their way through the local military forces. Devil Breakers serve as the replacement for the abilities Nero's demonic arm gave him in Devil May Cry 4, but with new twists to make his gameplay feel more distinct from Dante. Each arm Nero has equipped has a variety of specific uses, ranging from electrocution to a flying punch, to even the iconic Mega Buster from Mega Man if you have the DLC for it. To counterbalance them and make them nowhere near as broken as the grab moves in DMC4 were, each one breaks in one hit if you take damage during their animations, prompting you to use them safely as opposed to spamming nothing but Devil Breaker moves. After hacking and slashing his way through swaths of demons and destroying a sentient mass of demonic tree roots, Nero has a flashback to the incident 2 months ago that caused him to lose his arm, when a demon wearing a cloak, implied to be Urizen, ripped it right off of him in order to claim the Yamato sword inside it, before using Yamato's dimension-cutting power to escape without leaving a trail, and Nero swears revenge on Urizen for that humiliation. I should point out that before he leaves, Urizen says, "I'm taking this back."
Forbode. Jump.
Back in the present, Nero continues his trek through the ruined city. Before we begin, though, we're presented with Nico's workshop, which serves as one of 2 ways to buy new abilities and upgrades. Unfortunately, Devil May Cry 5 ditches the Proud Soul system of Devil May Cry 4 that split the currency rewarded to players into red orbs for buying items and Proud Souls for buying new abilities, but it's not a major loss, especially since the shop system has seen a massive overhaul. Gone are healing items, holy waters that acted as screen nukes, and devil stars that refilled your devil trigger gauge. Instead, all you can buy here are blue orbs to upgrade your health meter, purple orbs to increase your maximum devil trigger gauge, gold orbs that act as extra lives in case you die mid-battle, new devil breakers in case you want to suit up before the stage begins rather than relying on randomly generated devil breakers littered throughout the stage, increases to how many devil breakers you can hold at once, and new techniques. To counterbalance the lack of health restoration items in the shop, enemies now drop health restoring green orbs and devil trigger restoring white orbs far more frequently. Green orbs can be found littered throughout each level in the same kinds of clusters you find red orbs in, and gold orbs now revive you exactly where you left off rather than starting you back at the beginning of the room you died in. This fixes a few issues with artificial difficulty that players could face in previous Devil May Cry entries, where the player often had to choose whether to buy healing items for the road ahead, or buy combat techniques and stat upgrades to make combat more manageable, with little to no red orbs to split between the two. Tweaking how gold orbs work also fixes a persistent issue where if you died and used a gold orb during a boss battle, you had to start that boss fight over from the beginning, which, combined with the often high prices of gold orbs in the previous games and how rare they were to find inside levels for free, left the very real possibility of running out of gold orbs and having to start the entire level over again, but without any continues. These changes that not only affect the store, but the entire balance of the game, lead to a more focused and balanced experience compared to the often teeth-grindingly tough Devil May Cry 3, or the commonly unbalanced 1 and 4. The next level continues to show off a few new bells and whistles added to Devil May Cry 5, as well as some changes to the core mechanics. First are these neat introductions that every enemy in the game gets, carrying over one of the only good things about the failed reboot. I'm happy to see these return, especially with how 5 presents them with a preview of how each enemy behaves, so the player can know ahead of time how to properly combat them. Style rankings return once again, encouraging the player to use a variety of moves and combos without taking damage by not only rewarding them with a higher grade and more red orbs to buy upgrades with, but affecting the background music during battles by adding more layers to the soundtrack as your rank increases, and removing them as it decreases. It adds not only a monetary reward for playing well, but a sensory reward for hearing the kick-ass music the game brings with it becoming more grandiose, encouraging the player to constantly be on their A game. Third are how puzzles are handled. Previous Devil May Cry games had a varying reliance on puzzles to pad out sections between the combat sequences. They were never really anything brain-taxing, and served as more of a pace breaker, so the game wasn't just a series of combat challenges. Here, however, puzzles are reduced to one of only two types. Either destroy the blockade by finding a parasitic Needhog hatchling and placing it inside an open part of the tree roots, making them melt away and clear the path, or destroy the blood clot in the cluster of roots to dissolve them and clear the path. Normally, I'd complain about a lack of variety in puzzles here, and that can be a very real issue if the puzzles were some of your favorite parts of previous Devil May Cry games. But once again ties into Devil May Cry 5's more streamlined focus. Remember, Devil May Cry had its roots, pun intended, in Resident Evil, and those puzzle elements carried over as a sort of vestigial remnant of its origin. The reboot previously attempted to branch away from them by replacing puzzles with clunky platforming segments, but this didn't work so well due to the poor jumping controls and nonsensical level design. Devil May Cry 5, on the other hand, simplifies the puzzle elements into a series of fetch quests and find the weak point moments, so the game can retain its focus on high-octane combat sections. One last thing for Nero's gameplay that this level tutorializes is secret missions. Secret missions were in previous Devil May Cry games, but I was lazy and didn't cover anything about them. I'm making up for it this time, though. Secret missions can be found in areas with these red markings on the walls, floors, and ceilings. You have to find a glowing spot, stand on it to make the markings light up, and angle the camera just right to complete the image, then press the A button to enter the secret mission, which, depending on the level, tasks the player with either combat challenges, time trials, or puzzles to complete, rewarding them with a blue orb piece or a purple orb piece. Collecting 4 of each adds one more chunk to their respective meters, so it's encouraged to explore each level thoroughly and complete as many of these secret missions as possible. Near the end of the level, Nero finds a public phone ringing and answers it. Turns out it was Nico trying to call him, but since he took so long to answer, she tells him to call her from now on, before arriving in her van to offer the player one last chance to stock up before the boss fight. This is a recurring moment in each level, and I have to say, it's one of my favorite things in the game, even though it's extremely minor. Devil May Cry games often gave you a chance to stock up on healing items and new moves right before a boss battle, but here, every level has a unique cutscene of Nico entering the room. Here's just a quick highlight reel of some of my favorites.
You know I got you covered, asshole.
Bored? I've got a job for you.
All right, let's hear it. What you got?
After Nero defeats the boss, Goliath, V and his 3 demon familiars, Griffin, Nightmare, and Shadow, show up to deliver the killing blow, causing Goliath to crumble to dust. V reveals that all of these boss demons are acting as sentient roots for the Qliphotht, the demonic tree that this whole story is centered around. Before Nero and V can launch their attack on the Qliphotht and Urizen, however, they have to destroy all of its roots to weaken its power, and by extension Urizen, since he's plugged directly into the tree. Nero and V decide that it's best to split up, with each of them going after separate nearby Qliphotht roots. Nero travels through a flooded city and a sewer system until he reaches the next route, Artemis. Those with a keen eye may notice that Artemis here shares a name with one of the weapons from Devil May Cry 3. As a matter of fact, several demons here are either based on previous Devil Arms or enemies and bosses from previous games throughout the franchise, except DMC2 and the reboot. After Nero defeats Artemis, he finds that Lady was inside Artemis's body, powering it as a living battery. Nero and Nico bring her back to the van to recover, and the perspective shifts to V. V is only human, unlike the half-demon Dante and Nero, and as such isn't as strong as them. He isn't able to fight enemies on his own, so instead, he uses his 3 familiars to do the dirty work for him. Shadow delivers close-range melee attacks and allows V to skate across the ground and narrowly sidestep enemy attacks. Griffin dishes out long-range projectiles and assists in platforming with a double jump and a glide. Finally, activating Devil Trigger summons Nightmare, who acts on his own but absolutely wreaks havoc on enemies and bosses alike, and if summoned in the correct places, can break down entire walls and barricades, opening new pathways. V can also channel some of his Devil Trigger power into Shadow and Griffin to temporarily increase their strength. If Shadow or Griffin takes too much damage, they'll enter a stalemate, where they can't fight until their health is completely restored via standing next to their bodies. Lastly, none of V's familiars are able to completely kill demons, so he has to deliver the finishing blow with his cane, indicated by the enemy standing stunned and glowing a bright purple. V's gameplay as a whole is far slower paced than Dante's or Nero's, but requires more strategy since V is so frail and unable to deal damage on his own, making him feel completely unique from the other two Devil Hunters. V fights and defeats Nidog, a parasite that itself has become a Qlipoth root, but before he can continue onward, he finds himself fleeing from Gilgamesh, a giant armored demon that V knows he'd be outmatched by. The ground collapses under V, leading him to a series of abandoned catacombs where he finds Malthus, one of Urizen's generals, issuing orders to a demon knight riding on one of the Geryon horses from Devil May Cry 3 to find the Devil Sword Sparta, and another boss fight ensues. After defeating it, V decides that finding the Sparta is the best chance they have to defeat Urizen, and the story shifts back to Nero's POV. Gilgamesh rampages through the area Nico has her van parked in, and Nero goes to fight it while Nico takes care of an unconscious lady. Gilgamesh is quickly defeated, and Lady finally wakes up, revealing that her memory went blank after she and Trish were defeated by Urizen, leaving no leads to Trish's whereabouts, let alone Dante's. Nero and V leave on foot, and fan service ahoy! Nero and V continue through the abandoned subway station and come across a group of demon knights modeled after Nilo Angelo from Devil May Cry 1, which severely angers V for some reason. After the Angelos are defeated, Nero and V arrive at a ruined village with a destroyed house atop a hill, which V reveals was his childhood home. Nero and V split up again, with Nero going after Urizen and V searching for the Sparta, and... is it wrong to simp for a fictional character? Nero makes his way through the inside of the Qlipoth and reaches Urizen's lair. Urizen finally speaks, and I'm pretty sure that's just Daniel Southworth with a digital filter over his voice. Interesting casting choice, and I'm sure it's in no way a paper-thin disguise for something. Nero manages to break through Urizen's shield, but is still unable to defeat the Demon King himself. However, right before Urizen can finish him off, he's interrupted by the appearance of this badass-looking demonic monstrosity. Suddenly, we flash back to 3 months ago, with Morrison approaching Dante with a new job offer. We get a quick voice cameo from Patty, another anime original character, and Dante meets V, who tasks him with defeating Urizen. Dante's unimpressed at first, but V assures him that Urizen is special, that he's Dante's reason for fighting. Before V can tell Dante Urizen's name, the scene cuts away, but I notice, thanks to the more lifelike facial animations that the RE engine allows, that V's lips don't make a U shape, they made a V shape. Interesting, right? Back in the present, Griffin scouts a mountainous region and finds a group of demons, specifically the Nobody enemies from the original Devil May Cry, performing ritualistic dances, indicating that the Sparta is nearby. After defeating the Nobodies guarding the Sparta from intruders, V tries to lift the sword, but is unable to because the Devil Sword requires you to be powerful both physically and mentally in order to wield it. Shadow alerts V and Griffin that he spotted something. That something? Dante's unconscious body, which was being hidden by the Sparta's power while he recovered. V starts to go on an insane rant about how he wishes Dante didn't exist, tries to impale him, and Dante instantly awakens. Suddenly, we're shown a flashback to Dante's childhood, specifically the day when Mundus killed his mother, Eva. After that scene concludes, we see Dante getting filled in on the situation by V. We then flash back again to just before the prologue, where Dante, Trish, and Lady infiltrate the Qlipoth, and the game finally gives us control of Dante. Dante plays similarly to how he did in Devil May Cry 4, which itself was an evolution of Devil May Cry 3's combat, with the ability to switch between Dante's 4 fighting styles, Trickster, Swordmaster, Royal Guard, and Gunslinger, with the tap of a D-pad, and swap between equipped swords and guns with the trigger buttons. He starts out with his usual Rebellion sword, and a set of gauntlets and boots with fire powers called Balrog, as well as a pistol and a shotgun. Dante was severely overpowered in Devil May Cry 4 because he had no real enemies or bosses that were tailor-made to his gameplay style, but that issue has been thankfully rectified with Devil May Cry 5. Dante's enemies are often better at dodging and interrupting attacks, and rely on memorizing attack patterns to find moments where they can be attacked. DMC5 also makes sure to re-establish that the Dante of this game is in no way related to the unlikable shitmonger of the reboot, by having him act playfully with his enemies and bosses. Dante makes it to Urizen's lair to find Lady and Trish defeated, and begins to taunt him. Of note is that before confronting Urizen, he says, "Jackpot," in the same manner they did in DMC 1 and 3, seeming to hope that Urizen understands the meaning behind it. Dante fights Urizen and is defeated, catching up with the prologue, and the flashback ends with Dante setting off on his own, replacing Rebellion, which was shattered in the battle with Urizen, with the Sparta, since V is unable to wield it, and he vehemently disagrees with V's plan to give it to Nero. V tries to stop him, but notices that he's crumbling to dust. Dante spends the next couple of levels trekking it through the ruined city. Make sure you thoroughly explore the area with the collapsing building to find Lady's discarded rocket launcher Kalina Ann as a new gun to use. Dante faces off against Cavalier Angelo, a boss that acts as a sort of rematch against Nilo Angelo from DMC 1, right down to the strategy of parrying all of his attacks to stagger him. Dante hacks Cavalier Angelo to pieces and frees Trish from within its armor, prompting me to break out the sensor face again. V catches up with Dante, but Dante flees again on his new demon motorcycle, which gives Ghost Rider a run for his money. Trish recovers later in the day with V by her side. Trish gets suspicious about V because she knows for a fact that Urizen isn't a real demon, seeing as she's a demon herself. V decides to stop the charade and agrees to tell her the story of his and Urizen's creation. I'm gonna drop all pretenses about the foreshadowing here. V and Urizen were both spawned from Dante's twin brother and eternal rival Virgil, when he used the Yamato sword, reclaimed from Nero, to separate his human and demon halves in one final attempt to gain ultimate power before his body was destroyed. V spawning from Virgil's human half and memories, and Urizen spawning from his demon half and hatred of Dante. V's body is falling apart due to the constantly decreasing amount of demonic power in him, and after realizing that Virgil made a terrible mistake sacrificing his humanity for power, swore to stop Urizen's plan and right Virgil's wrong. Smash cut to Dante having the time of his life testing out his newest devil arm, Cavalier, a pair of twin chainsaws that combine into a flying motorcycle, utterly dethroning Bayonetta 2's witch mechs as the coolest thing I've shown off on Haseo Reviews this year. Most of this level consists of clearing out blood clots to fill the fountains below with blood so Dante can open the secret door underneath, which leads back to his childhood home. The memories come flooding back to Dante, and remembering the incident in Devil May Cry 3 where being stabbed with Rebellion unlocked his Devil Trigger form, coupled with Virgil stabbing himself with Yamato, separating his human and demon halves, Dante proceeds to shove the remains of Rebellion into his chest, fusing it with the Devil Sword Sparta and combining his human and demon halves together into the new form that rescued Nero earlier, dubbed Sin Devil Trigger, complete with a brand new devil arm, the Devil Sword Dante. Sin Devil Trigger is the last change to Dante's gameplay, and we get to try it out here against Urizen. Sin Devil Trigger acts as a short-lived berserker mode where Dante is nearly invincible and deals massive damage, accompanied by these spectral swords that deal additional damage. To balance it out, it has to be charged separately from the Devil Trigger gauge by either taking damage or sacrificing Devil Trigger energy. It doesn't heal you when you use it, and it only lasts for a few seconds before Dante reverts to normal, keeping this new form from being a complete game breaker. With his newfound power, Dante utterly curb stops Urizen, but it's too late. The Clyphoth has reached full maturity, and its fruit has grown at the top, which, because it's from the underworld, is at the bottom for some reason. Urizen flees to claim the fruit and absorb its power, and that plan sounds familiar.
Now, where have I heard that plot before? Wait a minute, this is just the plot to Tree of Might!
Who are you? take your hand off from Gohan.
Yeah, an evil doppelganger of the main hero plants a tree that sucks the life of the planet and its inhabitants to grow a fruit that when eaten makes the eater more powerful? That's note for note the plot to Tree of Might. Just replace Goku with Dante, Turles with Virgil, and the Tree of Might with the Qliphotf. I guess that makes Nero, Gohan, and V Piccolo then? Also, please don't copy strike me, Toei. You've already claimed a Bridgemon frontier. Dante reunites with the rest of the Devil May Cry crew and gets filled in on Urizen's plan by Trish. Nico finally gets to meet Dante, and can I just say, she's so adorable here with how she fangirls over Dante and gets all flustered when giving him his newest devil arm. Then we witness pure glory. If the rest of Dante's scenes in this game didn't make it clear enough that Capcom wants everyone to forget about the reboot, this was the final nail in its coffin. See, Ninja Theory? People like a fun and likable protagonist! Dante's intent on facing Urizen alone, rebuffing Nero's attempt to join him, but V acts as a mediator, convincing Dante that he'll need all three of them to defeat Urizen. The trio then split up for some reason, and the player is free to choose which character they'll play the next stage as, which in my case was Dante. The new devil arm we got, a demonic hat called Dr. Faust, allows Dante to either fire red orbs from his own total at enemies as projectiles, or set the hat on enemies to make them drop red orbs with every hit. Each upgrade you get for it increases the amount of orbs you'll gain, but also increases how many orbs you lose with every attack, creating a nice risk versus reward mechanic to this weapon that encourages the player to perfect their dodging, hat placement, and timing with those unlockable stronger attacks to decimate foes while gaining a metric fuck-ton of red orbs in the process. If you're too careless, however, you'll easily find yourself running out of red orbs, leaving you not only with no ammo, but no money to buy upgrades and gold orbs with. I cannot stress this enough, I love how the dev team behind Devil May Cry 5 went out of their way to make sure that the weapons and abilities that could potentially break the game's challenge take skill and practice to pull off properly. While the challenge level isn't nearly as high as Devil May Cry 3 or some of the more bullet parts of Devil May Cry 4, it never dips into the brain-dead territory of Devil May Cry 2 or the reboot, staying at what I believe is a comfortable level for newcomers of the genre, even on the normal difficulty. After completing this level, we switch to V, who's dangerously low on power. He soon finds himself caught in a trap set by Malphus to prevent him from reaching Urizen, that strips him of all his familiars and traps him in... what is this place exactly? I'm calling it the Shadow Realm. In order to escape the Shadow Realm, the player has to reclaim all three familiars one by one and defeat 3 boss rematches against Goliath, Cavalier Angelo, and Artemis. I like this section because it really tests the player on how skilled they can be when limited to just 1 or 2 of these primary abilities, but it's built in a way where no matter what familiar you choose to free first, you'll have an equal level of challenge. After reclaiming his powers and escaping the Shadow Realm, V comes across Malphus plotting to usurp Urizen. However, he accidentally gives away his position and Malphus slowly approaches to kill him, before being interrupted by Nero. The next level covers Nero's descent through the Qliphotf on the way to save V from Malphus, with nothing really standing out as far as set pieces or aesthetics go. I guess I'm just getting tired of looking at the inside of the Qliphotf, which easily makes up half of the game, as opposed to the more varied landscapes and environments of the previous entries. I mean, even Devil May Cry 3 managed to make the one setting of Temen-ni-Gru have its own unique, self-contained areas that kept the stone tower aesthetic from growing stale. Nero faces off against Malphus and defeats her, but V is narrowly clinging on to his remaining life, making one last request for Nero to carry V to the Qliphotf's heart to at least witness Urizen's defeat. The perspective switches to Dante again, covering the last leg of the journey to the top of the Qliphotf, ending with the boss fight against King Cerberus, a tougher and longer version of the Cerberus boss fight from Devil May Cry 3 that even Dante directly calls out the similarities between. Unlike the lowly regular Cerberus, though, King Cerberus can shift his element between ice, fire, and electricity, which is presumably carried over to his namesake Devil Arm. I wouldn't know from experience, though, because I never tested it out, since it's odd that the game is still handing out new Devil Arms this late into the game. I've already spent all my red orbs upgrading Devil Sword Dante, his fighting styles and abilities, and Dr. Faust, so I'm covered as far as combat goes. Honestly, this is a problem that most Devil May Cry games share, where the Devil Arms other than whatever you start with, or in one's case, the Alistair Sword, are so versatile and easy to use that they make the later weapons you unlock feel either obsolete or so different from what I'm used to, that I don't bother upgrading them or learning how to use them unless a segment forces you to use them, which 5 never does. While Dante races to fight Urizen, V tells Nero his backstory, confirming for anyone who is still unsure that yes, V and Urizen were spawned from Virgil. Switching back to Dante, he reaches the top, whatever, the place where the fruit grew, which has been transformed to look like Dante and Virgil's childhood home before it was destroyed by Mundus. After some typical hero-villain banter, Urizen eats the fruit and transforms. After a climactic battle that I very nearly got my ass kicked in from being too sloppy with Dr. Faust, V and Nero arrive just as Dante brings Urizen within mere inches of death. V, hoping to undo his completed form's sins, delivers the finishing blow to Urizen. Or so it seems. It turns out that V was actually planning to use this moment of weakness to fuse back together with Urizen, reforming Dante's evil twin brother Virgil, now even more powerful thanks to the Qliphotep fruit. Dante lunges at Virgil, but due to being tired and wounded from his fight with Urizen, Virgil easily overpowers him and escapes, challenging Dante to fight him at the summit of the Qliphotep when he's recovered, because defeating Dante at his weakest would be a hollow victory. Dante sets off after Virgil, with Nero protesting to join him, which Dante once again refuses. When Nero asks why Dante is so intent on preventing him from fighting Virgil, Dante reveals the shocking truth. Virgil is Nero's father, something that Dante has known ever since he saw how the Yamato reacted to Nero during the events of DMC4. Dante's refusing to let Nero fight and kill his own father, and leaves him behind.
What a twist!
After quickly meeting back up with the Devil May Cry crew and getting a new rocket launcher from Nico, which, if you previously found Kalina Ann in that one level, unlocks double Kalina Ann, allowing Dante to dual-wield rocket launchers, Dante races to the summit of the Qliphotep to stop Virgil once and for all. However, along the way, he's repeatedly stopped by V's familiars, with Griffin revealing that they aren't named after and based off DMC1 bosses for nothing, as they were created from Virgil's malevolent thoughts while he was brainwashed by Mundus and transformed into Nilo Angelo back during the events of DMC1. First you fight Griffin, then Shadow and Griffin together, then finally, all three together with Nightmare. With his dying words, Griffin reveals that he and the other two familiars were secretly testing Dante, warning him that if he had any trouble defeating them, he won't stand a chance against the newly reborn Virgil. Meanwhile, Nero catches up with the fleeing Nico and company and fills them in on the revelation that Virgil is his father. Despite everyone else pleading with him not to go, Nero ignores them and sets off for the summit. At the same time, Dante reaches the summit and has his final showdown with Virgil. This is by far the toughest boss fight of the game, with this Virgil acting like the final Virgil fight from Devil May Cry 3, but with new abilities and his own Sin Devil Trigger form. This will definitely test your reflexes and dodging abilities, as unlike previous bosses, Virgil will easily block and parry you if you just wail on him absent-mindedly. While this battle is going on, Nero reaches a phone booth at the summit and uses it to call Kyrie for advice. She simply tells him that he should trust his instincts because they've never steered him wrong before, and Nero, fueled by Kyrie's words and his resentment for failing to save Credo during Devil May Cry 4, rushes to the battleground to stop his last two remaining family members from killing each other, regrowing his arm in the process and, more importantly, awakening his own Devil Trigger. After breaking up the fight before the finishing blow could be dealt, Nero knocks Dante away and challenges Virgil to a fight, saying that if he wins, he and Dante have to end their sibling rivalry forever. Virgil agrees on the condition that if he wins, it means Dante has to accept defeat, and father and son face off. This moment right here, where the battle begins and you're prompted to activate Devil Trigger, presented with beautiful music, a skyward scream of "F*** you!" and the cinematic camera angle for the transformation? Absolute perfection. The end fight is incredibly easy due to Nero regaining all of his abilities from Devil May Cry 4, coupled with dishing out insane amounts of damage while in his Devil Trigger mode, and your Devil Trigger meter refilling automatically throughout the fight, but I'm willing to give it a pass. The first fight with Virgil was the final test of your skills. This is the climactic finish to that fight, where you just get to beat the shit out of Virgil for everything he's done. With Virgil soundly defeated by Nero, Dante and Virgil team up to head to the underworld to seal the portal that the Qliphothr sprouted from before it destroys the world. However, doing so will trap the two brothers in the underworld forever, just like their father, Sparta. Nero tries to stop them, but Dante tells him that he's entrusting him with protecting the human world in his absence. Virgil leaves as well, but not before tossing V's poetry book to Nero and promising that they'll meet again. We cut to the aftermath, with Nico and Nero driving together again, Nico teasing Nero about his regrown arm and playfully encouraging him to cry over the loss of his family that he barely knew. But they hit a roadblock of straggling demons. Nico gives Nero a new prototype Devil Breaker that works together with his regrown arm. Nero fights off all the demons as the first part of the credits scroll by, and the Qliphothr collapses, indicating that the portal was successfully sealed off. Meanwhile, in the underworld, Dante and Virgil reach the home of the Qliphothr, encounter some demons guarding it and the portal, and slay them together as more credits roll. A few weeks pass, and Lady and Trish bicker with each other over who gets dibs on Devil May Cry, now that Dante is presumably gone forever, which is put to an end by the appearance of Morrison, who was left the deed to the business by Dante before the game's events started. He informs them that he has a new job for them, and Trish and Lady set off to parts unknown that will hopefully be covered in potential Devil May Cry 6. Finally, back in the underworld, Dante and Virgil finish a friendly sparring session, having clearly gotten over their bitter hatred for each other. A group of demons show up, and what better line is there to end this saga on than...
Don't you dare say it's jackpot!
Devil May Cry 5 is an absolute masterpiece of not only the spectacle fighter genre, but of action games in general. The gameplay has been tweaked to near perfection, the story is the most engaging and gripping that the series has seen yet, but still knows how to have fun with itself. It's full of so many winks and nods to the most obscure parts of Devil May Cry lore that any longtime fan is sure to get a kick out of spotting them all. The graphics and music are phenomenal, and ultimately, Devil May Cry 5 has quickly become one of my favorite games of all time. While the story does rely heavily on callbacks to events in previous games that may lock out newcomers, the blood-pumping, exciting, easy-to-learn but difficult-to-master gameplay, coupled with a more beginner-friendly challenge level, without making the entire game feel like it's on autopilot, make this an easy recommendation even if you've never played a Devil May Cry game before.
And so, with that, another season of Haseo Reviews comes to a close, and this is the part where I go off on a improvised, mushy tangent that I'm probably going to stumble my way through because I didn't think to write this out beforehand. 2020's been a rough year for all of us. It's been rough for me too, but seeing the reactions that these videos have been getting from friends and newcomers alike, and meeting new people through these videos, it's really helped. It really has. Towards the end of last year, I went on a really long hiatus because I was just so disappointed with my low viewership and all that I was thinking of giving up. But I didn't, and honestly, that was one of the best decisions I've made because this has been such a productive year for me. It's helped me with my mental health as well. And guys, if any of you are out there with small YouTube channels like me and you're thinking of giving up because you haven't hit your big break yet, just keep at it. Even if you don't become huge and famous, it's worth it just for the small crowd that you attract. I'd like to take this time to thank out everybody who collaborated with me during the Haseo in Hell arc this year. I'd like to thank the Hiko Report for being the first collaborator. I had other collaborations planned, but they didn't really work out because I canceled the arc early. I'd like to thank Grenade Man Blitz, Nade, as he's also known, for being supportive of my work and convincing me to give it another shot. I'd like to thank Lynn for emotional support throughout the whole year and creating those awesome new art assets that you see in my thumbnails. And lastly, I'd like to thank all of you guys for sticking with me through all this. I'm Haseo. I'll see you in the next one.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the video and staying here until the end, or at least I assumed you stayed here until the end if you're here at the end slate. That's another year of Haseo Reviews down in the bag. I'll see you in January of 2021 with a new marathon that I've got planned. I plan on making an annual event. I've got a Patreon that I like to start promoting more, where you can donate as little as $1 a month in order to see videos early and get other perks like that. Merch link in the description for brand new merchandise featuring the new Haseo avatar look. Once again, thanks to everybody who stuck with me throughout this turbulent hell void of a year, and I'm looking forward to 2021 being even better for this channel than 2020 was. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters.